I have the wonderful privilege of representing Hoffman Construction as their Minority Woman Business Inclusion Manager. I worked with Hoffman for going on close to 2.5 or a decade and a half now. And the relationship that I've had with them has been very promising, and I'm hopeful that we can replicate that with all of you. Today we are going to go through these following elements today in our contracting summit. We're going to go through introductions of our very important port team. We're going to talk about the port's commitment to inclusion and including small, diverse firms like yourselves in their major capital improvement projects. We are joined today with someone who's very familiar with the port and actually is a very active practitioner and ambassador for our small businesses. I see Emily darn near everywhere I go. We're going to give you an opportunity to learn more about Hoffman, and we have one of our VIPs, one of our vice presidents, Andrew Powell, that's going to be here today to tell you about Hoffman. Brad Cooper is going to be sharing more information about the International Arrival Facility project. And we have Erin here who's going to be sharing, she's the project manager on the fire station project, and she'll be giving you some information on that pursuit as well. And we have some time to get prepared on that one, and she'll be sharing more about that. We'll also be going through the process. And some of you, can you raise your hand if you've done work with the port before? Wonderful, wonderful. Those of you that have not done work with the port may learn some things from this presentation, and that's what our hope is. We want to minimize the learning gap when you're working with the port. And they'll be talking about the various processes that you need to be familiar with in order to do business with the port. We're also going to be talking about the project labor agreements and the partnerships that Port of Seattle have with the building trades. And so we'll want to make sure that folks are familiar with that and how, if they don't have a formal relationship with the labor, they can develop a project-specific agreement with labor. And so we'll want to make sure you know the ins and outs of that relationship. We'll also go into the badging process, give you an opportunity to ask questions, and then again, give you an opportunity to share more about your capabilities, your company, and your specific scope interest in these pursuits. We actually have Emily who's going to be here, and she's going to share about the port, and we're going to jump back and forth, and then we'll go back into Hoffman. So please give a warm welcome to Emily Ho with the Port of Seattle.
Thank you all for being here today and taking time out of your day on a Monday afternoon to be here. I hope it's worth your while. I think it will be. I also want to give a big thank you to Hoffman for being amazing partners and partnering with us to put on an event like this, and Dan and his team with Platinum Group. As you probably already know, the port has a commitment to leveling the playing field for businesses who have been and continue to be impacted by working in a system that privileges some folks to the disadvantage of others. Our commitment is concrete. It comes in the form of committing to tripling the number of firms that we work with that are women and minority-owned businesses. It comes in the form of tripling the amount of spend that we have with those businesses to 15%. And I'm happy to report that as of last year, our goal by the end of 2023 is to have partnered with 300 254 women and minority-owned businesses by the end of that year, just in that 1 year alone. And we actually ended up partnering with 392. If you aren't one of those firms, we want you to be one of those firms. And that's why we're here today. How can you be a part of it if you're not already? The first steps that I always tell folks is to make sure that you're registered onto our Vendor Connect portal. That is our contracting portal. It's our yellow pages that our port purchasers, as well as our prime partners, as well as other government agencies, that's where they go to look for firms like yours. So make sure to check that out. I also encourage you to get on our diversity and contracting email list if you haven't already. You get to learn about other opportunities that we have at the port, other events like this that are coming up, and training opportunities as well. The last thing I would encourage you to do is what you're already doing now, is coming out to events like this. These events are my favorite ones. We've got big ones like Aviation Industry Day that's coming up June 11th. It's huge. We've also got our online webinars, which showcase particular projects that are coming up a few months in advance. But these ones really walk you through the nitty-gritties of the details that you really need to understand to determine if you want to chase this, how you would be successful in actually chasing this, and partnering with our prime. And then also just look at the number of people that are here to support you and to meet you. The ratio is like 2 to 1. Like, this is how you get actual conversation, that where you find out what you need, or get connected real quick to the person or the resource that you need to be in contact with. And so with that said, thanks so much again for being here. If you have any questions about working with the port, please come talk to me or my colleague who helped check you in the floral skirt, Josie Regan. We would love to talk to you. So thank you again.
This next gentleman who I'm going to invite is the reason why I'm here. Andrew Powell is the Vice President of Hoffman Construction. I have worked with him, as I mentioned, almost a decade and a half, and got to watch him really embrace us as contractors and consultants. And I also got to see him grow within the organization. And Hoffman's one of those organizations that really invest in their people. In their team. And so I got to watch him grow from a project manager to a senior project manager and now to a VP. And we have many people in this room who's benefited from his work, and I just want to make sure that all of you know the resource that you have here and the relationship that Hoffman is building and continuing to build with us. So let's give a warm welcome to Andrew Powell.
Well, thank you, Dan. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you to the Port for hosting this event, and thanks for you guys to show up and listen. I'm going to be pretty brief because I know you guys want to get to the important stuff, listening and learning about our projects, but I see some new faces. I see some faces I've worked with for over 20 plus years, and Garner, hi, Britta. But I wanted to quickly talk about Hoffman just very briefly. We are a 102-year-old company. We're the largest general contractor in the Pacific Northwest, and we do almost all kinds of commercial work and some high-tech data center type work as well. So we do work in almost every single market other than roads, bridges, and I would say residential type housing. So besides aviation projects, we do a lot of work. We do over $2 billion of work a year, and that's mostly based out of the Northwest here with offices in Portland, Seattle, and then Arizona and Boise, and one special client over in Israel. We are an employee-owned company, and I think that's important because it really drives the way we commit to our clients and to our trade partners, to our clients and our owners. We are committing to completing their projects safely, with high quality, and on time and on budget. Those are the commitments we make to the owners. And we take their projects and their programs and we make them our commitments. So whether it's LEED, sustainability, WMBE, we absorb those and make them our own, and we try to deliver on those programs. Part of the reason we're here today. Secondly, our commitment to our trade partners is to create safe places to work where you guys can do work safely with high quality and be financially successful. And we do that ideally by creating good schedules and flows of work so that you guys come to work with us and be successful, because it doesn't do any good if you come to work with us and fail. It doesn't help anybody. So our goals are to make you or provide a place for you guys to be successful. Specifically in the WMBE arena, it's not just bringing folks to the project, it's getting them on the project and seeing them through to completion, so helping them out in the field, et cetera. I'm very happy to be here. I'm glad you guys are here, and I want to turn it back over to Dan and the team to talk about the projects. Thanks very much.
The other thing that wasn't mentioned about Hoffman Construction is their commitment to being really an example for general contractors. And they have enlisted a handful of firms that they have taken a special interest in, a mentor-protege relationship. And I have been real proud to see the development of the firms that they've been working with, and looking forward to seeing that marriage continue to grow and prosper. Next, we're going to be talking about the International Rival Facility and the Superstar Project Manager, Brad Cooper. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. I'm Brad Cooper, and I'm the main project manager for the Post-IAF Airline Realignment Project. Quick introductions to the team. Ryan Purcelli, he came off Coleman Dock Project. He's going to be the superintendent. This is a GCCM project, so we have the mechanical and electrical contractors on board already through the selection process. So we've got Jake Smith representing Shin and Toby representing EC. And then on the port side of things, we're dealing with Lisa Albanese on the contract side. Rob Dahl, he's in the back there in the burgundy shirt. He's the resident engineer for this project. He's got two consultants under him with HNTB, Travis and CK, helping him out on that side of things. Okay, so just overview of the project. The main goal of this project is to move Delta off Concourse B, because they're an international carrier at SeaTac, onto Concourse A, and United has some gates on Concourse A, and they're not international carriers at this airport. So we're basically going to flip-flop Delta for United between gates A and B. This is showing the concourse level work, which is minimal. Most of the work happens on the ramp level, which is the level below the concourse, where all their operations and offices are, along with baggage handling and all that. So there's a lot of TI type work in order to facilitate that change out of their operations on the ramp level. A few other scopes, the last three bullets there. Another big part of this project is to upgrade the HVAC systems on Concourse B. We're going to add 2 rooftop air handlers inside penthouses, and upgrade the mechanical systems, pumps, VFDs, piping, to provide better HVAC in that Concourse B. We're also going to reconfigure ticket counter at Zone 4. So there's some ticket counter modifications, new ticket counters are going in, and we're also doing some baggage conveyance systems in order to deal with the revised layout of that ticketing area. So more overview, like I said earlier, this is a GCCM project. We came on board November of 2021 through that selection process. Shortly after, we got the MCCM and ECCMs on board through that selection process, so we got Shin and EC on board. And they've been helping us out through pre-con, doing budgets, doing site investigations, coming up with recommendations for the systems to help the design team out. Overall, the project is about $64 million. That's Hoffman's cost, the MAC value, what they call it for GCCM. The pre-construction duration, like I said, it started shortly after we started in 2021, and it should end Q2 of 2024 once we get everything bought out on the final package. Then we move right into construction. So construction is going to start quarter of 2024, and it should go till 2026, the construction side of things. There's been two main packages. So package 1 has already been issued. Everybody's under subcontract for that package. It's the enabling package. It's smaller of the two. It helps facilitate initial work, for this main package that's coming. And so we're here really to talk about package 3 that's going to be coming, and that should be issuing in about a month. But that's the balance of the construction work, and I'll go over more details about the types of scopes that are in that. Right now, the RFP slated to issue on April 1st, I believe. April Fool's Day. It's going to happen. It's not a joke. And then we should get the bids back. I think May 8th is the date that we want bids back, and then we'll work on getting, the release from the port and then getting subcontracts out the door. So this kind of shows you the difference between bid package 1 and bid package 3. The yellow is where the bid package 1 scope mainly is, and the pink is where bid package 3 scope mainly is. And you can see on the upper left-hand corner, the pink air handlers on the roof, and there's piping also that goes to them. So it's a big part of the roof we're going to be on. And also the ticket counter area, you can see that with that number 11. So that kind of shows you where the different bid package scopes are. Bid package 2, just so you know, it wasn't just odd numbers we picked. Bid package 2, we had to go out and rebid door frames and hardware on bid package 1 because we didn't get any responsive bids. And so that's what bid package 2 was. But now they're since on board and it's been awarded. There's complexities on this project. Obviously, the airport's fully operational. We can't impact their operations whatsoever. There's going to be a lot of off-shift work in order to help with that. All this work is on the secure side of the airport. So you have to go through a badging process, and Rob's going to go over that in a little more detail later on, where there's some background checks and fingerprinting and all that stuff. It takes a while to get through. There's a lot of data on this project that's available, a lot of as-bills that we can provide. We have a structure site, basically a web page that you could look at 360-degree photos of all the spaces to kind of get a feel for what you're going to be, conditions you're going to be working in and what the spaces look like. And that'll be furnished with the RFP when it comes. So there's obviously site access parking issues, constrained site. There's really no laydown area here, so it's pretty much just-in-time delivery. So we talked about WMBE, very important to this project, that's why we're here. Overall, the goal for this project is set at 13% over the total construction cost, which includes, Hoffman's fee, Hoffman's supervision. So in order to achieve that overall, we're going to be looking for 15 to 20% on the various bid items within the bid package. We're going to be pushing on the successful non-MWBE firms to reach out, to bring firms on board as sub-tiers or suppliers in order to get those goals met. I'm sorry, I was off on the bids due date. Right now it's May 10th. These are subject to change a little bit depending on when the design shows up and we get through everything to get this thing out the door, but that's the dates right there for this more substantial bid package. And scopes and ROM values for those scopes, there's 2 pages here. It's mainly TI type scopes. That's pretty much what this job is, renovation project. The roofing there is to support that rooftop work on the air handler, so that's going to be exterior work on the roof. The civil work, there's some utility work outside on the ramp level, ground level. And there's also, we're increasing the footprint of the ramp level in a certain part, so there's going to be some excavation for the structure and footings and all that stuff to get that out there. Site logistics, so the upper right drawing, that gate E45, that's the main secure gate to get materials and equipment into the areas where we're working. You can see it's real close to concourse A and B, so that makes the most sense for people to run their materials through. And our job site office is going to be about a 4 or 5 minute drive from that gate, and you can see it in that drawing where the logistics yard is versus where the gate is. So it's a little bit inconvenient. Usually it's nice to have the trailers right next to the work, but in this case it's not. Site logistics, yeah, so the last bullet there, in order to get through those gates, your drivers are going to need to have badges or provide escorts.
Jake Smith with Shin Mechanical. We're the mechanical contractor, construction manager for the project. Like Brad mentioned, we're installing all the HVAC systems, the new mechanical equipment, air handlers, plumbing, heating and cooling, ductwork. And for the post-IF project, we're looking for mechanical installation. We have opportunities for MWBE participation there, so I'd encourage you to come talk to me if you can assist with that scope.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tufts. I'm with EC Electric, filling in for Toby over here. We're the electrical contractor for the scope of work on the ECCM. For this project, we're going to package up the Division 27 scope of work, which is the communications package, structure cabling system. So roughly with that package, we got about 50 or so workstation drops. We have 10 wireless access points. And then the bigger scopes of work are 2 DMARC packages, one for United Airlines and one for Delta Airlines. One thing to note with this package is that there's a specification requirement for the 25-year extended warranty on the CommScope system. So definitely happy to chat that through with anybody here. Our pre-qualification process, so this is a fairly easy process to work with EC Electric. We manage this through Building Connected. And so we have Michael over here who will be happy to walk anybody through our pre-qualification process if anybody's here today wants to chat through that. And one last thing to note, even if this package of work here doesn't align with your company, if you are in the electrical industry and you have any interest working with us, we'd be happy to chat with you. We've got many other projects that we're always looking for partners in our construction trades. So thank you.
Now, we have multiple projects that we're going to be talking about. Today, we're going to be talking about 2 specific projects, but as mentioned, and Hoffman has a list of other projects that they're pursuing. If you don't see an ideal match or partnership on this project, be sure you look at some of these other projects, and I'll want to also talk with you more about your scope and how we can find some ways to find opportunities that do better align with you.
Thank you for coming. This is the primary fire station continuing operations preservation project. My name is Erin Goki. I'm a senior project manager with Hoffman Construction, and I'm working with Blake Allman as a superintendent. Currently, he's up at Sound Transit Project in Shoreline. We're working with Hermanson Mechanical as our MCCM. They are currently our only trade partner on board now for the project, so all the other scopes are going to be bid out. Rob Dahl is also our project manager with the Port of Seattle. He's in the back. He's going to be assisted but with Jay, and Tina is in the back also, our contract specialist. And then Terry Kim is the design manager. Project overview. The fire station is located at the north end of the airport, kind of between the north terminal and the control tower. So we are on airport property, but we kind of straddle the security fence boundary, and we don't really have any direct contact with pedestrians, which is great, or travelers. It is primarily HVAC upgrades. We are trying to extend the life of the building to give the firefighters and the EMTs, paramedics, better quality of life while they're working here at the airport. In addition to the HVAC upgrades, we have electrical upgrades to support the new mechanical equipment. We are installing some electric vehicle charging stations. We're renovating their dormitories from a bunk-style dorm to individual sleeping suites. And then, of course, all of the work is going to be happening in a operating fire station, which will not be shut down. It's open 24/7, 365 days a year. 66 this year. I have a floor plan up on the screen now. So the purple triangle and rectangle and the green rectangle, those are the sleeping suites. And then all the other colored spaces kind of represents the mechanical equipment that's scattered throughout the building. Up on the second floor, the green is the main mechanical room where we're going to be replacing the air handler unit in there, and then a couple other pieces of mechanical equipment. Last but not least, we're going to be taking their dining area and removing the greenhouse roof that's there now and putting in a more conventional roof that is more energy efficient, and giving them a nice exterior patio space, along with some new kitchen equipment. We are going to be bidding out the work later this summer. So you will probably want to look for it in June, July of this year. So if you get on our list, you will get emails and notifications of when the bid packages come out. The work is going to be happening the end of 2024 through September of 26. And this is because we do have those individual air handler units or mechanical units that we're replacing. We're surgically going in and doing them one at a time. So it is going to take a little bit of time. You can see the bulk of the work. That's the dormitories and the mechanical work. And then that's followed by the dining room and the kitchen equipment. So the fire station is located here where the green square is at the north end of the airport. And our primary access gate will most likely be through 166th Street security entrance. But we're still kind of negotiating the finer points of our logistics plan. So when we send out the bid package information, that will all be updated with the correct info. You can see that it's a standalone building. So again, there's no room for laydown. We'll most likely have a remote laydown space at the south end that will have to drive materials up and around if we don't have room for them here. And we'll have a couple of little office trailers sitting out next door. But all of the parking here is for the firefighters when they come in through shift change. Their union requires that they have a place to park, so we don't get to take any of their spots. The MWBE goal for this project is 10% of the total contract cost, which kind of roughly translate to 12 or 15% for each of the bid packages. Our outreach plan is being developed currently, and we're starting our outreach early so we can get interest from everybody here. We only have mechanical on board right now, so all the other scopes will be bid out: demolition, concrete, steel, casework, etc. We do have a number of smaller bid packages we're hoping to get some interest in. I think our largest one here is electrical. And that is it for my part. I'm going to ask Jim to come on up, talk a little bit about opportunities with Hermanson. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim Reynolds with the Hoffman team here as their MCCM. So we do have several scopes of work, and we have reached out a little bit already on this project early on just to see if there's any interest in the project. We've got multiple scopes. Generally, we're a full mechanical and self-perform. However, we do subcontract out scopes of work as well. And on a project like this, we would be seeking things like insulation and possibly the plumbing, piping work. There is some refrigeration piping on this job as well. There's not very much of it. Controls, although at the port, controls are very specific for anybody who knows about that. There's a little bit of specialty metal work. So we'll be putting these out, same time frame that Hoffman is, for people who have interest in it. One thing I'd add to what Emily said, the port does have a great portal in Vendor Connect. And what I tell people when I'm talking to them is, don't just go there and look at what's there, but sign up as a plan holder. When you do that, you're not committing to anything other than receiving information about those projects. So when they go live, you'll know about it. Otherwise, you may miss the boat. You also get updates as a general contractor is selected and as various packages go out. So definitely take advantage of that. I found out early on, it's actually a great portal, and it's probably the best one. Compared to the UW, it's like light years ahead. You can't find out anything on the UW site once a job gets a GC picked. On our table over here, you'll see there's a little card. This has this project listed on it, the fire station project. But it also has 5 other projects listed that we're currently involved with that also have WMBE goals on them. So it's not just the only project we have like this, and we're reaching out on those as well. Also, there's a little 8.5 by 11, just tells a little bit about Hermanson Company, who we are, what we do, and got any questions, my business cards are laying there, so certainly give me a shout, shoot me an email. Not afraid to return calls, and I do return my calls, and I return my emails as well. That's pretty much it for me.
Let's thank our fire station team. Now we're going to talk about working with Hoffman. And Rebecca Kilgore, who you've seen running around here, she's like a track star with the baton. She didn't sign up for it, but she did really good. But she actually has been with Hoffman for a number of years and is very familiar with all of the requirements on doing work with Hoffman and obviously our clients. And she has been very helpful in introducing our small vendors that need some help navigating through the process. And please give a warm welcome to Rebecca.
Thank you for that introduction. So yes, I've worked with Hoffman for quite a long time in a variety of positions. One thing that's unique about Hoffman is we have centralized purchasing. So we have one department that takes care of all of our requests for proposals. So what that does is if you develop relationships with the purchasing department, if one job doesn't work out, we're always in the loop of what's coming up next. So that kind of makes us a little bit different than some of the other GCs. One of the most important things is getting on our invitation to bid list. We have our pre-quals over there, and my colleague Brett Kiefel will be at the table afterwards. We're showing you how to get on our invitation to bid list. It's pretty simple. We'll talk through how to access the bid documents, and then our RFP instructions, special provisions, and our clarifications. On the right there is our subcontractor vendor questionnaire. The top part of it, if you read the instructions, you fill out sections 1 through 4 and 9, and you'll email it to bids@hoffmancorp.com. That will get you on our invitation to bid list. When you are on it and we're bidding your scope of work that you select through the pre-qual, you'll receive an invitation to bid that looks like this on the left, and typically we'll have the purchasing agent's name on the email. You'll select View Project, and this will take you into the plan room on the left side. We use SmartBid, and we try to organize it so that the most current documents are on top. So I would say if you're new to getting a project, one of the most important things you can do is download the request for proposals, or the RFP. And in that, you will find really crucial information, I think, to decide, is this a job that's fitting your scope of work? You know, where do I find the schedule? All kinds of project requirements. The first first page on top there will tell you when the pre-bid is. It'll also tell you the due date for the bid package. The bid package number and the title oftentimes will tell you doors, frames, and hardware. If you're a mechanical subcontractor, right there you can look at it and go, that's not for me. Sometimes we have bid packages that are labeled all other work. What does that mean? So you might have to dig down a little bit to figure out if your scope of work is in the request for proposal. You'll have the bid package table of contents in the RFP. This will tell you kind of the direction of where to find things. So especially on GCCM work like the port work, you will need to know, where do I find the proposal form? That is required. If you do not fill it out, you will be considered non-responsive. So really important to find that. It'll also tell you what's bidding, the scope of work. I say subcontractors always want to know what the schedule is to figure out when the job is happening and if it really works for them and the manpower that they have. So this will tell you where to find the project schedule. We do put our sample subcontract in there with all of our attachments. It's really important to kind of look through that. We have sometimes people are successful and then we issue the contract, they give it to their legal department, and maybe they don't agree with some terms and conditions. And so it's really great to just know up front if you are willing to sign our contract, and if your legal department, if you have one, will kind of go forward with it. If not, then I hate for people to waste their time bidding if they get to that and then they're like, sorry, we can't sign your contract, and it's no go. The other thing is all of our subcontracts are tied to our owner contract and requirements. We do try to pull those things out, like the delayed damages, the PLA, the badging, some of the crucial things that could affect your bidding. But it's a good idea to look through the owner contract and see if there's anything in there that you have questions about. In the RFP, you'll get instructions and special provisions. So this will include important details like the pre-bid meeting, where it's at, what time. Sometimes we do them through Teams or virtually, so that will always have the link there to the pre-bid meeting. It'll also have, if you want to dial in, what number you would use. On this page, you can't see here, but there'll also be the licensing requirements. We will talk about prevailing wage requirements. If we have any WMBE goals, what they are, a bid bond requirement. We'll have further instructions on the bid due date, where to send it, and when it's due. And then oftentimes on GCCM work, we'll have a public bid opening. And we sometimes meet at a location that you're always welcome to come to, but then also people are busy, so we offer a virtual option where you can just call in or log in and hear the bids read. And I work a lot in Oregon and we don't do that a lot, so I always think it's kind of cool for people to get bid results right away. They know who's bid and what their number is. So I encourage everybody to attend the bid opening if you've turned in a bid. Okay, bid package clarifications is another important part of the RFP. It'll tell you what's in the bid documents, what you will contractually be tied to when we issue your subcontract. If we do have a BIM model, there's usually an electronic data transfer agreement that we have you execute, but right there where it says Revit models, it kind of goes over the details of what to fill out, where to send it. The informalities and award of work, I always think this is really interesting. It kind of talks about what makes a responsible bidder and a responsive bid. Responsible bidder meaning that you have the appropriate financial, material, equipment, facility, and personnel resources to meet all contractual requirements. And a responsive bid means that you've taken everything in the RFP, all the requirements for bidding the work, and you are responsive. So one of those things would be, again, the required proposal form. If your bid's over $300,000, it would be the bid bond that you would need to submit with it. On this one, it kind of goes over the purchase agreement and subcontract terms, bonding requirements. We do require that you execute the contract and documents within 10 days of award. So we'll send you a contract within 10 days of that date on that contract. We need to have your signed contract, your certificate of insurance, and those other things. This also will tell you at the bottom technical questions, due date, and where to send them. There's usually a cutoff for questions, and most often all the technical questions will go to the project manager. However, if you ever have questions about how to access documents or just I need to pick someone's brain about something, I would encourage you to call myself or my colleague Brett, and we'll point you in the right direction. Scope of work. On your scope of work that's bidding, we always have general clarifications. This section, really applies to every bidder, and it will talk about special requirements on the project, insurance requirements, the project labor agreement, delay damages, drug testing that's required, the owner policy. So that could be your badging, that could be the access, that could be anything in the owner contract that will flow through to you that we want to make sure you're aware of. Payroll, so certified payroll or prevailing wage, how that's expected to be reported, what the work hours are for projects. I know sometimes in operational projects, we'll say something like, you may have to price evening work or off-shift hours, or whether it's, just strictly 410s or Monday through Friday, 6 to 3. We'll go into detail on what our cleanup expectations are, and then apprenticeship participation. So those are the general clarifications that apply to most everybody. And then there'll always be a section that's scope of work specific clarifications. So, when we say we need a complete bid, the one thing you want to do is go to this and say, okay, what specifications am I tied to? And what are they wanting me to do? And some of it goes without saying in your scope of work. If you're electrical, you're going to have, your wire and transformers or what have you. But this is kind of the project manager's narrative of things that you wouldn't automatically include, of what the expectation is for you to furnish and install. So this, again, if you still can't figure out if this RFP is for you, get to the scope of work and see if you see one of the bid packages that is your trade. So again, here's some more detail on the scope of work. This is what, like selective demolition, this is kind of where you would find exactly the detail of what your scope is. So it's what your bid should be based on, and any exclusions that we want you to exclude would be listed here. I think it's really important for everyone to note that when you're doing GCCM work, we can't accept any modifications, qualifications, exclusions, or clarifications to the scope of work that may affect your bid. So, sometimes we get those on bids and we can't accept, and that would also make your bid non-responsive. The required proposal form, you'll find this either in the RFP or in a separate folder in the plan room. You want to make sure that you put your company name, your base bid amount, how much your payment and performance bond amount is, at the total bid amount, and then there's usually a checklist of what to submit with your bid. It's not unusual if it's over $300,000 for the bid bond, and then of course the proposal form, and we do collect our pre-qualification form once a year, so if that's not current with us, then you would want to turn that in. You can send it separately. You don't have to send that with your bid. And if you're not sure, just give me a call and, hey, is my pre-qual current or not? And I can tell you in 2 seconds, or Brett can too. On the proposal form, there's an area for you to acknowledge the addenda that's been issued. That is one of the things that we do read in the bid opening, is if all the addenda have been acknowledged. So you want to make sure to write in the addendum number and the date. There's all the licensing that goes here. Your EMR numbers are your experience modification rate, which has to do with your workers' compensation. If you're not sure what that is, give me a call, but you should know through L&I. We like to know if you're union or not, and who you're signatory with, if you are union. Also, if you are a certified minority, women-owned, or disadvantaged business, we'd like to know that. We'd like to know who you're planning on subcontracting work to. And if they are certified, list that there too. At the end of the proposal form, there are some just basic questions. Are you a small business? Do you acknowledge that you've read our subcontractor purchase agreement, including the attachments? We ask for the company contact info, your printed name, date, and it must be signed. And that is one of the things that we go over when we do a public bid opening is, is it complete? Did they sign it? Bid bond. So you can get a bid bond and you can email it with your bid if you'd like. We just need the original in our office by end of business the next day. A bid bond is 5% of your bid amount, and your surety would walk you through that and know what you need for that. We're working on these 2 port projects, but Brett and I work on all Hoffman projects, in particular Washington. And so if you have any questions about projects that you hear might be coming out, or hey, do you have any opportunities coming up? We do have the sheet that Dan mentioned that lists all of our upcoming work for Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. Give us a call. Brett attends outreach meetings locally regularly, so he is a really great person to be in contact with.
I'm Tina Hemingway. I'm the contract administrator, and I work for the Port of Seattle. And I realize and I understand and I get the burden that it puts on contractors to have to enter the prevailing wage in L&I and then again in our system. At this point in time, we are working on it. We've been trying to work towards it for years because we realized once L&I started making the requirement, was it 2019? The Port of Seattle has been requiring the entry of payroll information longer than that. We've always required that. We've been requiring that as long as I've been here. I've been here for 25 years. So we've always required that. Once L&I made that requirement, then it became a burden because now we have to put it in two different places. At this time, we are unfortunately not able to take the information that you provide to L&I and use it. We understand, we're working on it. Can't say it's going to happen in 6 months, can't say it's going to be fixed in a year, but they're working on it. And I just want you to know that I understand the burden, but part of our contract requirements that will flow down to the subcontractors is that that information needs to be provided to us in our system. We have great systems administrators that can help you work through it, but just know that we understand the additional burden that it is for contractors and subcontractors to have to enter this information in multiple places. You've been heard, we've been talking about it, we've been saying it ever since L&I made it a requirement. Then we realized the impact it was having, because now, not just our system, but now also L&I's system that you have to do. So there's nothing we can do about that right now. But just know that we recognize it, and we are working towards fixing that where you don't have to do that, or we can use the information from L&I, but at this time, our processes don't allow for that.
Let's get a warm thank you for this wonderful presentation. If you haven't done work with the Port, you need to know Rebecca, or excuse me, with Hoffman, you need to know Rebecca. She will get you through the highs and lows and really help you feel ease at getting embraced by Hoffman. Helene Wessons Perkins is going to be giving us some information that will be much needed as you're developing budgets for your projects and participation. So let's give a warm welcome to Helene.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Helene Wesson Perkins. I am a construction specialist on PLA projects. And this project happens to be the post-IAF. It's my project. My coworker, Omar Ruby, has the fire department PLA project. For those of you who have not worked on a Port PLA, it is not easy, but we are there to help you. We walk you through things. We provide training for you. As you prepare to venture into working with Hoffman on these two projects, let me give you a couple bits of information about the PLA. Firstly, the PLA supersedes the collective bargaining agreement unless it's silent. In the event that the PLA is silent, it will revert back to the applicable collective bargaining agreement with said unions. Drug testing is mandatory on this project. Those people who would not drug test would be your safety managers, your office staff, your non-working superintendents, and your non-working foreman. Anyone who is actually working on the project, putting on a tool belt, will be responsible for going through drug testing. Wages. The wages to be paid shall be the current collective bargaining agreement rate, not the rate at the time of bid, and not tied to the L&I prevailing wage, unless in rare instances the prevailing wage is higher than the PLA provision states that the contractor shall pay the higher wage. Please pay particular attention to the collective bargaining agreement Schedule A escalation rates as you prepare your bid package. There's a core-to-union ratio if you are not signatory to any unions. That means that the first person hired out would be your worker. The next person would be from the union hall, unless you are working in a specialty field that the union does not cover. Overtime and shift work reverts to the applicable collective bargaining agreement for all wages associated with overtime and shift work. In addition to these being PLA projects, we do have an apprenticeship utilization goal on the projects. There's the 15% per craft for apprentices. Of that 15%, there are further goals of 21% of the total hours coming from people of color and 12% coming from females. It is also a priority hire. The priority hire project meaning is there is a goal of 20% of your workers that are to be dispatched from a disparity zip code outlined in the PLA. It is not easy, but we are here to help you. As I stated before, we do provide training. Naeem, you've gone through our PLA training previously in the past.
Can we get a thank you for Helena? That's always a tough subject, and I think it's important that we understand both sides of it. It makes us more educated. It gives us a better opportunity when we're in the room with those folks. It gives us more knowledge and practical experience that can help improve things. So I'm hoping that we can definitely do that, and I'm hoping more agencies will be more port-like. So we have someone here from the port to talk to us about the port badging process and the requirements around that. And let's give a warm welcome to Rob, who's been avoiding the camera all night.
Badging here at the port, it is your badge. It's your, how do you get around? How do you actually access place? It is probably one of the biggest logistical challenges here, so I would say definitely pay attention to those requirements associated with it. The Port of Seattle has recently done a really good update of our Credential Center's website, which is the portal into the whole badging process. I would say check that out. It has a lot of good information. The second thing I'd pay attention, Rebecca talked to it about it a little bit in what Hoffman will provide you in the bid packages, but pay attention to the insurance requirements. Specifically, if you're getting a blue badge, that means you're driving on the airfield. They're going to be looking for a higher level premium deductibles for your vehicle insurance. As far as the general process goes, every single worker is going to be required to go through a background check, file applications, come in for fingerprinting, additionally come in for training. As you can see, I'm saying things that take a lot of time for each and every worker, so make sure you're taking all those things into consideration for bids.
This is a great time for you to pose some questions that you may have.
We'll have a sample certificate of insurance in the RFP that will have the additional insureds that are required and the limits. If you're talking about general liability, it's $3 million each occurrence, $3 million aggregate. The auto is $2 million, and the employer's liability is $1 million. The umbrella is not, we don't have a requirement for an umbrella if you meet the $3 million occurrence in aggregate on your general liability. Yeah. If you have $4 million, you're more than good. I hear you on the prevailing wage thing, and you're not the only one that feels like that. I've heard that before, and I agree. We're really trying to work with L&I to get it kind of one-stop shopping. At this point, it doesn't seem like it is, but I do think you're not the only one that has that concern, and we certainly will do what we can to kind of push things that way. So, and you're right, it really should be something that if we need LCP Tracker, we could download from L&I and not have you enter it twice. I agree. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So if you find a conflict or something that you need clarified, make sure that you submit your technical question to the project manager before the due date. Because whether it's Brad or Aaron, if you have a conflict like that and you're like, hey, you know, the drawings aren't matching the spec, what do you want me to do? I mean, I agree. And they will submit that question to the architect and get an answer for you so that you know which one prevails. So I appreciate that.
You're going to submit a lump sum bid, based on that duration. And if that duration extends, in my opinion, you have justification for change order. And if it pushes you into a higher labor rate period of time, you'd include that in your change order. Rob, you disagree with that?
As long as the entitlement's there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I would only add to read the changes section in the specifications because there are notification requirements.
I do work for the Port of Seattle. I don't work for the unions. I work with the unions, but I'm a Port of Seattle employee. You have worked on several of my projects, I think it was 2, to be honest.
Yes.
And we had no issues. I can't speak for CWAs. I can't speak for Sound Transit, City of Seattle. We do our best here to work with small businesses. Sir, what happens is I work with the prime contractor. If you are new to a PLA or have never worked on a PLA, we set that up with the prime contractor. I do it on Teams for you. We go through all the paperwork. We go what to expect when we go before the building trades. I'm there with you every step of the way.
There is actually a sheet on their website that does list out disqualifying crimes. I will say a couple of the things you just said are listed on there. I would still say have that person apply, specifically if it's been 10 or more years or even 5 or more years since those events. They're looked at it on a case-by-case basis and the severity of them. For small scopes that are what I would say the scope can be performed by a worker that does not need to more than 5 times or go through the screening process, our employee screening. I would say, yes, that's something that can kind of be looked at. I would say still for the purposes of putting together a bid and a bid packages, if our specs say you're required to get a badge, I would plan on getting a badge. That is a great question, and I've only ever ran into this once, and I would say we worked with the contractor on getting a badge, and it goes back to my first comment of they're dealt with on sort of a case-by-case basis, but specifically, we don't really speak to it as part of the PLA. It would be something where we would be wanting to partner with the GCs and our subs and work through that process. But specifically, no. But you bring up a great point that I know Helene and I can take back and definitely look for if there's a betterment there we can be doing.
Well, I can tell you my experience. Let me ask the first question about can you qualify 8 hours only and then anything beyond that you get paid for? Unfortunately, with this GCCM process, you can't qualify, clarify, or exclude anything. So the answer is no there. But as far as it took me probably, I filled out paperwork. About 3 days later, I was told to come in, and it's here in this building, and get a background check done and get your fingerprint taken. I think, they take your picture and take your fingerprint, then they tell you to go back. And then a few days later, they call you up and say, okay, now we're ready for you to come in and take a test on a computer. It takes about an hour and a half. They're tutorials and you get tested on them. And so I would say all in, I was probably about 5 hours into getting badge process with all those steps.
The blue badge takes a few more hours of training too for the airfield driving. And then the cost of the badges last year was approximately $169 each. Correct.
And if you got to send your people here twice, then
Then there's a problem.
We don't control your manpower and who quits and who you hire. So you really just have to kind of take a best guess at that and try and keep the same folks.
So the answer is one more comment on that. Every time you send somebody, you have to pay 4 hours minimum as PLA. So if you are 1 hour, 2 hours, you have to pay your employee for 4 hours. So if you send the guy 3 times, minimum 12 hours. Then that's the answer to your question.
hence why I said a day and a half to 2 days. That was it? Okay. Yep. Any other questions?
I think Rob knows why our bids are high when we come out. So everything you're saying is not a surprise.
Correct.